Okay guys, today we're going to do some clutch modifications. We're going to modify the variator roller weights. We're going to replace them with some sliders. We're also going to replace the rear main clutch spring on the driven clutch assembly. And when we're done, we're going to do a track attack to see how well the improvements helped us or if they hurt us any in our particular situation. In short, we're going to remove the exhaust. We're going to remove this side cover. We're going to pull both clutch assemblies off, make our adjustments, and put it back together. The first thing we got to get out of our way, in fact, is the exhaust. Now I'm going to show you those little springs in there on the exhaust. I suggest not trying to fight those. They're very tough to deal with unless you got the proper tools. It's much easier to take out the two 10mm headed bolts that are on the exhaust head, and then take out this bolt there, which holds the rest of the muffler assembly, and just move the muffler out of the way. Yeah, you've got to do that. The two 10mm headed bolts you've got to do from underneath the machine. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll be right back and take it from there. Okay, we've got the two 10mm headed nuts off of the exhaust header. We're going to go ahead and this bolt right here is a 13mm. We're going to go ahead and blast them off and get the exhaust out of our way. Second here. Like I said, it's a heck of a lot easier just to remove this entire assembly. Like you see here, it's a lot easier just to move this like that because you just simply have two bolts there and one there to hold it on, and that gets it completely out of our way. Alright guys, next thing we got to do, we've got 8 bolts that hold the clutch assembly cover on, side cover. We're going to go ahead and blast those off, and then we're going to go ahead and tap that cover off. Okay guys, we've got those 8 bolts out of there. One thing you need to be aware of is your ground attaches to one of those bolts. Make sure you're aware of how that sits on there, and more importantly, when you put it back together, make sure you don't forget to put this ground back on, because if you do forget, it's not going to start or do anything. We've got all the bolts out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tap and I'm going to pull at the same time here to try to work this cover off. We do not want to flop it off. The reason being, there's a gasket behind there that we want to try to spare. So there's a dowel pin, a couple dowel pins that hold this cover on. There's one at each side, each end if you will, and we want to try to just slowly work this cover off and try to spare that gasket so we don't have to get another one. If we can reuse that gasket, that's great, and it can be done. We'll go ahead and start tapping here, and then if it doesn't, start working side to side. There we go. Alright. Okay, here it comes now. Now notice that the gasket is wanting to stay on there. We don't care if it stays on the cover or if it stays on the engine side. We just care that it stays in one piece. And you see the dowel here, it was giving us a hard time. We're going to try to work him off there and try to spare this gasket. By all means, if we can keep the gasket intact, we will. If it won't come off in one piece, the gasket's only a couple bucks, but a couple bucks is a couple bucks, and more importantly, you have to order parts and wait for the parts. We want to avoid that. Okay. Alright. Let's pull them off here. Work them slowly all the way around. Try to get it in one piece. Okay. And here comes our cover. Take note that there's a bearing in here. You'll be seeing that back on the clutch. Gasket appears to have come off in one piece. We're going to go ahead and remove him from the engine side just to get him out of the way so we don't damage him while we're messing with the clutch. And there's our gasket there. We don't really care if it rips up there. What we do care about is that the sealing surface stays complete and intact. So we can in fact go ahead and use this one again. Alright, we'll set him to the side. I'm going to take the camera for a second here and show you what we're going to do. Okay, this is your variator. We're going to change out the weights of the rollers that are in there. We're actually going to replace with sliders from Dr. Pulley. And this is the main clutch assembly. Take note that there's an O-ring right here. We're going to go ahead and take him off now and set him to the side. That way we know we've still got him. You see your belt in there. I am in fact going to use an impact wrench to pull these off of here. Let me go ahead and get that hooked up and we'll be right back. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take the wheel off. The reason being is we're going to use an impact to get those nuts off the front and the rear clutch assemblies, and the impact won't fit between here and the tire. So we're going to go ahead and remove the wheel. We already got it up on the stand, on the jack stand. All right, so here's our goal is something I do on my own here. So if you don't have a torque wrench, I do have a torque wrench, but I'm going to show you guys one trick that you can use to try to at least get your tightness back up to about the way it was. Is I'll take a magic marker and I will mark the nut itself up against its shaft. And the reason I do that is this way when I go to put it back together, as long as my lines line up, I know I'm at least where the nut was from the factory. Okay. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get our impact set up to take those off. They take a 17 millimeter socket, is what size those are. Okay, we just go ahead and tap it lightly, and then we do the rest by hand because we don't want to strip that out if we can avoid it. Take note of your assembly. Go ahead and bring the camera down here a little bit more and focus in there. You've got one large washer, thick washer, then you've got the nut itself. Once you've got that off, this will just wiggle off like that. We'll go ahead and set him to the side. Then we're going to take the belt and we're going to just move him down and out of the way like that. And then we're going to slide this assembly off. Now what I'm doing is I'm reaching back here with my fingers and grabbing this entire piece off as an assembly like that. This is how the variator sits. Notice that you also have this little thing here that slides in and out. When you set it down, it's going to raise this part up. We're going to go ahead and remove that. And here sit our roller weights. Here, there's 6 of them. We're going to go ahead and pull this out of here, set it off on how it was, and we're just going to go ahead and flip this over. Take the weights out. Okay, we're going to put the rollers there. What we are replacing them with are these little Dr. Pulley sliders. Now I want you to take note, these are used, I have them in another machine, but we're going to go ahead and use them in here. Take a look at the orientation of these. That long backside is the longest side that there is. That goes to the inside of the variator like this. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put them in there. That is the correct orientation. If you got it in there right, you'll be able to read Dr. Pulley on here. Okay, but just remember the long side goes to the stem, if you will, of the variator. So we're going to go ahead and put all these in here. Okay, hopefully you got to see the picture. Alright, we're going to go ahead and put everything back together here. Set that back where it goes. A very tight fit, provided everything's still in good shape. And then we put our lid on. Notice you have 3 little, in my case they're black, guides, and they sit on square looking pins, not the round pins, on the rectangular shaped ones. I'm going to go ahead and set him on there. Okay, like that. Alright, and there you go. Alright, we're going to go ahead and leave that here for now. We're going to go deal with the driven clutch, and then we'll come back and put everything together.